I'm beginning, this is Shirley with Sirius Telus Moon. I'm beginning this episode on a Saturn hour, and I'm going to hold a Deneb Algedy to talisman to balance the Saturn hour. Saturn is on the world degree, which is why I chose yes to record. And the ascendant is conjoining Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, which discusses sexual sovereignty also when it comes to occultistic and ritual practices. So ethical use of sexuality, no incubus, succubus, ritual abuse, or ritual rape. And this is declaration before Declaration of Independence. Obviously, there's a reason why I'm recording immediately and publishing that immediately. The moon is 8 degrees Cancer, applying to Jupiter and later to Venus, later today and later tomorrow. And the midheaven is 21, almost 22 degrees Leo, with the sun in 26 degrees Leo, trining Chiron. And this is going to be broadcasted on a Jupiter hour. So I'm going to basically what's going to happen tomorrow at the time of the consecration, I will open with a Declaration of Independence experiment, and I will read it out to you now. This is the reason I'm publishing this video. Naturally, I have no inclination to commit suicide. It is experiment that can that is absolutely both real and an experiment of a foundation of an existence or coexistence that is more more independent and more compatible with Age of Aquarius, abolishing of slavery, abolishing of ritual abuse, trafficking, and so on. So I'm going to record and publish this. Tomorrow I'm going to have, at around 10 a.m., I'm going to have, as Venus exits the 22nd degree, right now all this Cancer complex is in the 9th house. So there's the Scorpio ascendant with Uranus in the 8th house. But tomorrow we're going to have a different ascendant. Uranus is going to be in the 9th house, which again would make Orion, which is the independent coexisting autonomy, and I will elaborate on that as well, is going to be susceptible to the Uranus Geminis, which means that in Orion, the winning over land and material resources would be to those who best respect human rights. And without further ado, so Orion Declaration of Independence, the currency for Orion is going to be 1 Sirius, 1 Procyon would be 6 Sirius, and 1 Orion, which would be 9 Procyons, or 54 Sirius. Those are going to be consecrated candles, for the lack of better means, or perhaps those are the best means. Okay. So since I'm the founder, so I'm Shirley Talley Youngblood, founder of Orion. This is not a conglomerate, it's not a confederation. I'm declaring the coexistent independence. And what do I mean coexistent independence? It means that this Declaration of Independence is not a declaration of war on land. It is an existing entity that will have implications on matter, but it's not a waging war on any other territory. So I'm declaring the coexistent independence of Orion on planet Earth and beyond. So any type of space explorations can be affiliated with Orion given the following conditions. Orion is a home to divergent people and cultures, and this is actually true when it comes to Orion people and Orion constellation, Orion beings, as long as there shall be no excuse to violation of sovereignty on all levels of being. So this is pertaining to rituals, pertaining to targeted individuals, and any of that sort that is illegal in Orion. No spiritual religion practice shall negate the male-female energy balance. So this is the 6-9, this is Kundalini balancing, this is the practice where we have healthy masculinity, healthy femininity, and the union and the tantric union between them, which is sovereign sexuality on all levels of being, again, talking about a view of spirit and matter integrating, it is illegal to use trauma to fragment the soul from the body and so on and so forth in whichever type of practice, whether sexual or not. Okay, the sexual sovereignty and the autonomy of the individual, and freedom of children from being subjected to sexual rituals or other violating rituals and practices. The sovereignty of the patient. There would be no excuse of deprivation of dignity, housing, the ability to move, the ability to travel, okay, food, nourishment, from being and being included in trade. Um, and euthanasia in the most ethical form, free of suffering, is going to be accessible for those that are in need of that, including by execution or self-defense. Okay, so while I currently don't have the measures to commit euthanasia on people, this is a sovereign place where this is eventually going to be the rules. Okay, so we do not by any means deprive people of their dignity, whether it's by execution or whenever possible, if needed, be self-defense. No exclusion from, yes. So there is no exclusion from those human rights. Okay, there's no emergency state, there's no pandemic state. There's enough land, there's enough space, there's enough for everyone. It's a coexisting. Okay, so coexisting. The rules of Orion are the legal rules. Okay, so basically the rest is war crimes. So I'm not renewing anything, but definitely the founding of Orion is on the basis of the actual human rights that is in alignment with the Golden Ages and the time where the bubble pops on anything that's trafficking, ritual abuse based. Both indigenous and not indigenous. Orion citizens are citizens of the world, regardless of sex, gender, bloodline, or any other criteria. Okay, which means that it is actually illegal to deprive people of their human rights, both on Earth and outside of Earth. Again, this is an experiment. Orion is the constellation for Sirius and Procyon, and it is indeed associated with divergent beings living in tolerance together. And the reason I placed patient sovereignty there is because much of the excuses for the privation of human rights has to do with patient sovereignty. And okay, so when it comes to participation in trade, again, there will be no excuse regarding that, and there will be no excuse of depriving people of their right and dignities, which from the beginning abolishes slavery, and this is supposed to be a remedy for any independent entity that is founded in the coming 7 years, where Uranus is in Gemini. Because I have been inclusive, this is already and inclusive also when it comes to patient right, I have addressed and appeased the 12th house, which is very likely going to be Mercury ruled. If the ascendant is going to be around Spica and Venus going to be around Procyon. This is the notes for the Declaration of Independence, and I am going to, yes, release that on a Jupiter hour and do the full declaration. This is the full declaration, but I'm going to do the actual imprinting of the coin, which basically means inscribing, using small scissors to inscribe on candles the symbol of Sirius and Procyon, and then of course I'm going to make a talisman for Sirius Procyon with Jupiter and Venus and the Moon in Cancer, and include Spica into the mix. Again, this is supposed to be of inspiration when it comes to issuing, let's say, a passport. Again, all of those times where we create masses of paper, so create another token or currency, are going to be visible and accessible to everyone. Now, of course, by now I don't have, we're not an armed. First of all, I'm not a we. Second, we're not an armed type of alliance or anything of that sort. It is. It is a declaration. It's appeasing the needs of having a declaration is coexisting, which means that it's not territorial in the sense that we also don't intend for people to stick to one territory because traveling is encouraged but not forced whenever it comes to like cities. Okay, if there is a city that needs renovation and so on and so forth, and people would need to move to another city, what is important is that they would have the ability to choose a destination that fits to them, whether it's astrologically or not, and have access to that destination. Of course, they're going to have to be diplomatic relations or anything that a coexisting entity necessitates. And again, this is an experiment. The elections that we have right now are just so good in that sense. Saturn on the world degree is again tending to making the steps for sovereignty, independence, with Moon in Cancer, for the people, um, and getting out of those partisan notions that have deprived the world of peace. We have both Sirius and Procyon with us. We're going to have Spica with us. Yes, the Sun is trining Chiron that conjuncts Aries, which gives us a well-placed Sun that is in good relations with Andromeda constellation, and the ability to reconcile and be in good diplomatic relations. Okay, Andromeda allows for reconciliation, which means good diplomatic relations, particularly when it comes to the ability to free hostages, and it would naturally be illegal to mistreat, whether it's hostages or not, to mistreat people under any type of seclusion, so whether it's what jail conditions or hospital conditions. The sovereignty must be kept at all times, and so is around the rituals. It is up to the sovereign beings to decide whether they adopt this or not, but they cannot legally violate, okay, rights, and Orion will not vouch for any type of human rights violations, which means that people are not to be expected if they identify or take on an Orion identity or passport or whatnot, then they will not be expected to be vouched for when it comes to being litigated for crimes against humanity. Okay, in the existing authorities. So just to make that very clear, the only condition, the only precondition is if they, yes, if they are agreeing to the fact that if somebody is hurt from them and kills them, then that person would not be persecuted. So this is okay. So this is something that again is very experimental. But this is an actual example of declarations of independence, of current cities free from ritual abuse, and of actually making the first step to tend to the problems that humanity has been dealing with in the once in 3,000 years opportunity that Pluto out of bounds in Aquarius presents. So yeah, we'll see what will be. The territory that currently I'm operating in is sort of Israel/Palestine, or Middle East, and that is the experiment. Let's see if we've moved to Jupiter hour. 3 minutes from now, we're going to be moving to Jupiter hour. Yes, the moon is leaving a square with Mars in Libra. and Mars rules over Saturn and Neptune. Again, this would be putting Mars in Libra for Orion, and that is again emphasizing soft power and diplomacy over ritual, satanic abuse, and war. Um, and yes, it's very likely going to be in the first house, um, which yes, which is again an experiment, and there may be perfections on this Declaration of Independence and on further declarations of independence. This is a very transparent. Okay, so the chart is going to be transparent for the people, and Moon in Cancer is good. It's going to very likely be in the 10th house, which means the people are the rulers, while and Saturn, the ruler, the other ruler of the 4th house, while it's going to be Capricorn, is going to be in Aries, which already speaks to citizens of the world. Okay, and a coexisting, because 7th house is the borders. Um, and yes, to say is probably not favorable for, and it is probably going to be a day chart, so it's going to be a bit challenging for the citizens of the world, and Mars is in Libra, but is ruled by that moon, so everything comes to that moon. And Venus ruling the 8th house is going to be in the 10th, so we're going to have transparency over the 8th house means, as well as Mercury is going to be in the 11th, so we're going to have transparency over the 12th house. So things are going to be pretty transparent, pretty good for the type of sovereignty that is based on transparency and is fit to the age of air, rather than the secretive things that perhaps were necessary up until now, but we are bridging from the transitional times that we are in into a completely new wavelength for humanity, while being inclusive of all sex and genders. Okay, so this means that all type of by the way, when it comes to gender affirming care on children, is not going to be possible on Orion. So this is something that's important for people who care about that. Um, and we're talking about patient sovereignty. So currently the way those surgeries are performed is not patient sovereign, even for adults. And that is something that Orion will not vouch for when it comes to litigations against war crimes. Okay, so that to make that very, very, very clear. But for those that are wanting to get out of the door to exit violence, or whether it's of occultistic form, and are ready to embrace that transparency, then as far as they embrace that transparency, and as far as they do go out of violence, then of course, because it is important to allow for people to not do crime, then this is something that definitely there's a willingness to integrate, as long as there is a complete ceasing of participating in the rituals that would definitely get a person killed and not vouched for in Orion. Because simply not going to be vouched for. It's not about like we're going to assassinate people. It's just like if somebody's going to hunt this person for performing a ritual on somebody's child, then it's not something that Orion could do anything about. That being said, I have already in my other work exposed the mechanisms behind extortion calls and so on and so forth. And while Orion is not a full alternative to the people who want to transition from extortion calls to sovereign living, it's a building block on the way to there, and I invite people to have their own declarations of independence and be inspired in that thinking. I love the placement for the lot of fortune here. I love the in a kite shape. I love the placement for Mars that is still in a kite shape with the B6 style. I appease the conditions of Uranus and Sedna. Okay, particularly, there's not going to be any forced type of like marriages or anything like that. Those things will have to be dissolved to receive an Orion participation. Okay, whether it's the currency of Orion. Okay, and this is important. The currency of Orion is not going to be shared with people who are forcibly wed and so on and so forth. Whether they would have to divorce or okay, but whatever is the means, it's free people, free men, free women, free gender non-conforming, whatever. And so we appease fully the conditions of Sedna, the conditions of Uranus in Gemini, the conditions of the 12th house, and the conditions of the 8th house by placing the ascendant on Libra. Um, Very likely there are going to be also other considerations, very spontaneous, but yet not every day do we have such meetings in Cancer that mark both Procyon and Sirius with the moon in Cancer in the 10th house, giving us good position for the people and good inclusivity for the people, while having the sun well placed and having the ruler of the 12th house in a visible place, as well as the ruler of the 8th house in a procyonic place, which is beyond excellent. Um, okay, and now all that is left is to wait for tomorrow, Friday in Palestine. And again, the name of the entity is Orion, because of the divergence that Orion coexisted, the divergence that coexisted with one another in Orion, and was home to the many, um, and learned the wisdom of appeasing um, the things that would otherwise get it invaded. Okay, so there's a completely new take on national and international security. It's not a nation state, it's a coexisting entity um, that has no territorial borders as to the place of the Declaration of Independence. Um, and Yes, and I'm the founder, so I'm a single person, actually single, actually single person, declaring the founder. So my being the founder um, simply means that you know, like who made this Declaration of Independence, as everything is transparent, and people can have their own coexisting declarations of independence, and the diplomatic relations would be with those that are appeasing of the Orion standards. Okay, and for those that don't, they will have to give up for Orion to vouch for them, or for requiring Orion to compromise its standards when it comes to diplomatic relations. So it's kind of like, hey, if I don't know, North Korea wants diplomatic relations with us, that's okay, as long as we don't have to vouch for what they're doing. Um, so yes, Jupiter hour, good to publish. Um, Good to publish. And yes, tomorrow, as the moon leaves this square with Mars, we will be having, and look at this, actually not a bad timestamp. It's actually not a bad timestamp. Um, so right now it's 12:50, um, and this is Jupiter hour, Mars day. Because Mars is ruling the ascendant and is in the 12th, I'm not placing this as the Declaration of Independence, but tomorrow we'll have another reading, and I am publishing that so that this will be there, will be out there for tomorrow. So yeah, I'm bad with meetings, so let's hope everything will be okay.